In 1940, a group of British engineers walked into the Air Ministry with blueprints for a bomber that had no defensive guns, no armor plating, and was made almost entirely out of wood. The men in that room laughed them out of the building. Furniture makers, not aircraft engineers, would end up building this plane in old furniture factories and piano workshops across England. Within 4 years, it would become the fastest operational aircraft in the world, feared by German fighter pilots who couldn't catch it, and so effective that Hermann Göring himself would stand in front of Luftwaffe officials and demand to know why Germany couldn't build anything like it. This is the story of the de Havilland Mosquito, the plane nobody wanted, that became the plane nobody could stop. By 1938, war with Germany looked inevitable, and de Havilland's design team had a problem. Every other aircraft manufacturer in Britain was fighting over the same limited supply of aluminum, the same skilled metal workers, the same factory capacity. De Havilland decided to go the opposite direction entirely. Chief designer Geoffrey de Havilland proposed something radical: a fast, unarmed bomber built from wood, using furniture-making techniques and a workforce that didn't need aircraft industry training at all. Wood was cheap. Wood was abundant. And critically, wood wasn't being fought over by every other war contractor in the country. The Air Ministry thought the idea was absurd. An unarmed bomber sounded like a death sentence for its crew. Every other bomber in the war carried gun turrets, waist gunners, tail gunners, layers of defense to fight off enemy fighters. De Havilland's pitch was the opposite philosophy entirely. Don't fight off the fighters. Outrun them. Strip away every gun, every turret, every pound of unnecessary weight, and build an aircraft so fast that German fighters would never catch up to it in the first place. The Air Ministry rejected the proposal outright in 1938. They rejected it again in 1939. It was only through de Havilland's persistence and a growing desperation as war broke out that the ministry finally agreed to fund a single prototype, reluctantly, and mostly just to see the company fail quietly. The prototype flew for the first time on November 25, 1940, from Hatfield Aerodrome. What the test pilots found stunned everyone in the program. The aircraft was faster than the Spitfire, Britain's frontline fighter. It was faster than almost anything the Luftwaffe had in the sky, and it achieved all of that while carrying a bomb load and crew, not just a single pilot with guns. The wooden construction that everyone had mocked turned out to be a masterstroke. Wood is lighter than aluminum for the same strength when engineered correctly, and de Havilland's team used a plywood balsa plywood sandwich construction for the fuselage that was not only light, but incredibly strong and simple to mass produce. 2 half-shells of molded plywood were built separately, complete with wiring and controls already installed inside, then glued and screwed together around the frame like a walnut shell closing. Furniture factories across Britain, along with piano manufacturers and cabinet makers, started turning out fuselage sections using skills they already had. Women who had never touched an aircraft in their lives became a critical part of the workforce, precision-fitting wooden components to tolerances that impressed even veteran aircraft engineers. The finished aircraft was breathtaking in its performance. Early production Mosquitoes could hit speeds over 380 miles per hour, and later variants pushed past 400. To put that in perspective, that made the Mosquito faster than most fighter aircraft on either side for years into the war. It didn't need defensive machine guns because in most situations, nothing could catch it long enough to use them. British and Commonwealth aircrew nicknamed it the Wooden Wonder, and German pilots who encountered it developed a healthy respect bordering on frustration, since intercepting a Mosquito in level flight was often simply not possible with the fighters available to them. What made the Mosquito legendary wasn't just its speed, though. It was how many different jobs that single airframe could do exceptionally well. Most aircraft in World War II were built for one role and adapted, often clumsily, into others. The Mosquito was different. The airframe was so fundamentally sound that de Havilland and the RAF turned it into nearly every role imaginable. There were unarmed high-speed bombers that flew too fast for interception. There were night fighters, bristling with radar equipment and cannon, hunting German bombers in total darkness over British cities. There were long-range photo reconnaissance versions that flew unarmed and alone deep into occupied Europe, relying entirely on speed and altitude to survive. There were anti-shipping strike variants carrying torpedoes and rockets to hunt German vessels in the North Sea and Atlantic. There were even trainer versions and a transport variant that flew priority cargo, including diplomatic mail and even small amounts of gold, between Britain and neutral Sweden. Pilots and ground crews often joked that if you gave the design office a weekend, they'd hand you back a Mosquito variant for whatever job you needed done. The bomber variants became particularly famous for a style of mission that almost no other Allied aircraft could pull off. Precision, low-level strikes, delivered fast, low, and often nearly impossible to intercept. One of the most celebrated of these was Operation Jericho in February 1944, when Mosquitoes of the RAF's 2nd Tactical Air Force were sent to bomb the walls of Amiens Prison in occupied France. Resistance fighters and political prisoners were being held there, many facing execution, and the mission called for breaching the prison walls at extremely low altitude with precision bombing, while trying to avoid killing the prisoners inside. Flying just above rooftop height through winter weather, the Mosquito crews hit the walls with enough accuracy to allow over 250 prisoners to escape in the chaos. It was the kind of mission that demanded an aircraft fast enough to survive a low-level daylight run over defended territory and accurate enough to thread that kind of needle, and the Mosquito was one of the only aircraft in the world that could do both at once. Another mission that captured the imagination of the British public was the raid on Gestapo headquarters in Oslo, Norway, in September 1942, and the later, even more audacious raid on Copenhagen in 1945, targeting the Gestapo's Shellhus headquarters, where resistance prisoners were being held on the top floor as unwilling human shields. Mosquitoes flew in low over rooftops, dropped their bombs with tight precision, and were gone again before German air defenses could meaningfully respond. These raids became symbols of what fast, precise air power could achieve when speed itself became the primary form of protection. Perhaps most audacious of all were the Mosquito raids flown directly over Berlin. Unarmed, high-altitude bomber variants would fly straight over the German capital, often specifically timed to disrupt speeches and broadcasts by senior Nazi leadership, including reported instances of raids timed to interrupt addresses by Goering himself. It became something of a running joke among aircrew that the Mosquito could fly to Berlin, drop its bombs, and be back in England in time for breakfast, while German night fighters and anti-aircraft crews simply couldn't get organized fast enough to stop it. Goering's reported fury over this, demanding to know why German industry, with all its aluminum and engineering resources, couldn't produce anything comparable to an aircraft made of wood by a British furniture company, became one of the more darkly satisfying anecdotes to come out of the entire air war. The night fighter variants deserve their own recognition too. Fitted with early airborne interception radar and a devastating combination of cannon and machine guns in the nose, Mosquito night fighters became one of the most effective tools Britain had against the German bomber raids that continued sporadically through the war, and later against the V-1 flying bombs that began falling on London in 1944. A Mosquito night fighter had the speed to catch a V-1 in level flight, something few other aircraft could manage, and pilots downed hundreds of these unmanned weapons before they ever reached their targets, saving countless civilian lives in the process. If you're finding this as fascinating as we do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, because there's a lot more where this came from. Obscure and underappreciated machines from Britain and the Commonwealth that rarely get the spotlight they deserve. And drop a comment down below telling us which aircraft or vehicle you want covered next, because we genuinely read every one of them. By the time production ended after the war, nearly 7,800 Mosquitoes had been built across factories in Britain, Canada, and Australia, a staggering achievement for an aircraft that senior officials had initially dismissed as a wooden folly. It served with distinction not just in the RAF, but with Royal Canadian Air Force and Royal Australian Air Force squadrons, reflecting just how deeply this aircraft became woven into the broader Commonwealth war effort. Losses among Mosquito squadrons, particularly in the low-level precision bombing role, were far lower proportionally than most other bomber types of the war, a direct testament to the original, mocked idea that speed itself could be the best form of defense an aircraft could carry. What's remarkable looking back is how close this aircraft came to never existing at all. If de Havilland had listened to the Air Ministry's initial rejections, if the company hadn't pushed forward on its own initiative and its own funding through 1938 and 1939, Britain would have gone into the most intense years of the air war without one of its most versatile and effective weapons. The Mosquito stands as one of the great lessons of the entire war. Sometimes the unconventional idea, the one that gets laughed out of the room, is the one that changes everything. A plane, built by furniture makers, out of birch plywood and balsa wood, without a single defensive gun for most of its variants, became one of the most feared and respected aircraft to fly over Europe. For the veterans who flew these machines, and for the families of those who never came home from missions in them, the Mosquito represents something beyond just impressive engineering statistics. It represents ingenuity under pressure, a willingness to bet on an unconventional idea when conventional thinking wasn't working fast enough, and the extraordinary skill of aircrew who flew missions at rooftop height through occupied Europe in an aircraft with no armor and no guns to protect them, trusting entirely in speed, precision, and each other. That's a kind of courage that deserves to be remembered, and it's exactly why machines like the Mosquito still deserve a place in how we talk about this war today. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you're subscribed for more deep dives into the machines and the people behind them, and let us know in the comments what you'd like to see covered next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.